So we will get started, and I'm sure others will join us along the way. Just a quick couple things first, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues, Dan and Sam, to give a welcome. But everybody is welcome to turn on your cameras if you do want to kind of participate visually as well as the project team. If you're having internet latency, turning off cameras is a good way. We will be going through a presentation today. It'll take about 20 minutes. We're talking a little bit about schedule and then the alignment options that are on the table. And then the second half of the meeting, the majority will be time for questions and a discussion. And so just so everybody is prepared, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat as we go. I will kind of have them on cue when we get to the discussion portion. And then when we get to the discussion portion, we'll switch between people raising their hand and questions in the chat. And so to raise your hand, if you go to the participant list and kind of wave above your name, your hand symbol will appear. It's also at the bottom of the screen, kind of as a plus symbol, in the plus symbol category. And with that, Dan and Sam, words of welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sam O'Connell, and happy to see everybody on the screen, and really looking forward to having a good session with folks today. Just a little bit of background. I'm Sam O'Connell. I've been with Metro Transit Met Council since 2008, 9 or 12, 2012, there we go. Oh, what year is it anymore, right? I've been with the Blue Line since 2015, so worked with my colleague Dan Solar and some of the folks that are on the meeting today too, have some good background on the project. And really today is to hear from you. We are going to do some talking. We are going to present a little bit of where we are with the project, and also talk about some of the routes that we have shared more publicly the last couple of weeks, and our next steps. But really today's about you and hearing from you and your ideas, your thoughts, and we're also here to answer your questions. So, and today is also to meet the staff and the folks that are going to be working with you through this process as well. So just wanted to say a quick welcome and hello, and I will turn this over to my colleague Dan Solar, who will also say a few words.
Thank you, Sam, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dan Solar. I work with Hennepin County Public Works, and I have been spending time working on LRT probably for the last 10 or 11 years. Spent a lot of time working on the Central Corridor Green Line project, and the last 5 or 6 years on this Blue Line extension. So happy to see us continuing to advance this project. Happy to find a way to realize this vision of building LRT in this portion of Hennepin County. And so happy to have you all here. Really enjoy these forums as means for us to get some information out, and then even more importantly, for us to get some feedback back and to hear from folks and to understand concerns, questions, comments. And so happy to do that. Excited to be part of this, and we'll be here to answer questions as we go forward. So thanks for being with us over this lunch hour as well.
With that, Dan, just one note. We recognize it is lunch hour. Many of you do need to probably skip to a 1 o'clock meeting. So we will try and close this at about 12:55. We will continue to hang on for just any more questions, but just wanted to let you know that we are also watching the time for you as well if you need to jump for a 1 o'clock meeting. So just wanted to say that. And I think Sophia is going to give us a couple more instructions before we get into the presentation.
Sure, I think we have, people are wondering about the chat, and so just questions can go in there as we go, and we'll get to them at the end. So kind of the timeline is to talk about our timeline, the project options, and then room for discussion. And just we'll kind of get into it now. And I've neglected to introduce myself. I'm Sophia Guinness. I work at Metro Transit, and I am one of your main contacts for the project, so questions and whatnot as we go forward. So a little bit about the project itself. I know some of you joining us today are maybe new to this process, and some of you have been with us for a very long time. And just want to acknowledge that in 2020 in August, that our agencies made the announcement that we are moving away from the BNSF corridor. So in this slide today, you can kind of see the old alignment, and this yellow portion is basically the part that if we can't build without freight railroad agreement. And we spent multiple years with multiple efforts trying to come to an agreement with our freight rail carrier, and it came to the point that if we really wanted to deliver on this critical regional investment, it was time to move the project forward and find new solutions. And so that's what we're going to be talking about more today. As part of that shift to a new project, we really had to set the frame of what we were going to be talking about. So in today's presentation, you'll hear a lot about our project principles, and just wanted to give folks a kind of grounding in what they are. So they speak to a lot of different things, but like, for example, you know, we talk about maintaining mode. So this is still an LRT project. We still want to try to make this a fast and efficient mode of transit. We want to retain as much of the project as possible, while also taking the opportunity to serve even more people and destinations than we did before. With these big regional projects, you don't often take a second look, and so we're excited about the opportunity to see if we can, what else we can do. With that, we are still capturing the Blue Line project. So there's parts of it that we're trying to maintain. So maintaining our termini, so Target Field Station in Minneapolis and Oak Grove and Brooklyn Park. You'll see that in some of the maps that we go through later, how that principle pulls through with the project. We also are trying to serve our corridor cities. And then there are other factors that we also want to consider, like complementing existing and planned metro transit ways. That we've seen, for example, C&D line come online or trying to begin construction since we initially started talking about this project. And things that may maximize the transit investment are also part of our alignment principles. We also recognize that this project can't happen without in-depth, robust community engagement. So part of our project principles are also stating our commitments to the community for the engagement process itself. And beginning with that is honoring and building upon the work that we've done with many of you as we've moved this project through time. And with that, we also know that we don't want to just say this is how it is and keep it like that. We want to tailor what we're doing and making sure that we actually hear from everybody. There's also commitments to really make sure that we're reaching all of our demographics and using community priorities. And I think the last one is we're adjusting our strategies to making sure that we're all coming along. So what to expect from this project team in the next year, because that's kind of the root of what we're talking about today. By the end of the year, we hope to have a community-supported alignment adopted. And today, we're starting to present some of the pieces that we're pulling together to get towards that goal. But throughout this year, we will have a lot more pieces and be able to answer a lot of questions as we roll through the options. We have to evaluate routes, and we have to advance our engineering. I'll talk a little bit more about that in our next slide. So went through the project principles. Those were our grounding documents. Started to talk to community and project partners and to really kind of think, what was that realm of possibilities? Now let's see if I hold over the image, it starts reading the alt text. So sorry about that. Right now, we're going to talk more about with all of you today is this initial screening of options done by staff. And we'll be asking more about what we're missing. We still have to actually evaluate those routes and put more detail behind them before we come to a recommendation. And you can kind of see as that goes through the year. And just a couple to kind of spell that out a little bit more. We've really done what we consider the tier 1 screening, that initial look, and we release the route options. we'll have community engagement throughout this whole process, but also just want folks to be aware that we will also have two other kind of major decision points that'll help frame our year. And one is a draft report that really goes more into that analysis of project criteria, more engineering work, talking about stations themselves and where they could go in some of our new areas. And then moving into a final recommended route and report and getting feedback on that. And then we're not done. We still have 2021. We're not ready to be in the ground. So that work will have to be advanced to be environmentally cleared and to get our engineering more up to snuff to actually build a project. So what to expect this year and what to expect beyond. Conceptual engineering, including stations, more of that evaluation, getting to that community supported route and identifying our path forward, so that we can do all of those things that I just discussed. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Nick, to walk us through some of those initial options.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Landwehr. I am the Metro Transit engineering lead for the project, and I've been with the project since, well, 2015, so for some time now. Before we get going too far here, I just want to reiterate to folks out here that we're going to look at initial route identification, and these are staff recommendations for evaluation. These are really what we wanted to bring out to the public, to the community for discussion, for feedback, for comments, and let us know what you like about what we're showing here. Let us know if we got everything or if we're missing something. We want to have that conversation. So this is just a rollout for that conversation and to get input on it. So we've broken up the project into three distinct areas here for evaluation, and we want to confirm with these areas. In area 1 and 2, we want to confirm the options that we're showing out there. And area 3 is going to be a little bit more of a discussion because there are more opportunities there in that area. So as we've put together our evaluation, our recommendations, we again want to base these all on our project principles, and we want to make sure that an LRT fits within the right of way that we're showing. We want to be consistent with a lot of the previous work we've done, and try to keep the commitments to the communities that we were running with the previous alignments, or the previous project alignment. So next slide, please. So getting into area 1, this is up in Brooklyn Park, and this area was not affected or is not affected by the freight rail corridor. So the work that we've done here can really remain. So we're recommending to move forward with that alignment. And so that alignment is on the key map here, noted as the 2013 locally preferred alternative, but that is the portion of the project. We're at 90% design there. We've identified where the stations are going to be, the 4 stations that you see with the blue dots with the yellow in the middle, and we think we're in pretty good shape here, working with the city of Brooklyn Park and community members that this is what we're recommending to continue along with this portion of the project. So we do have quite a few key destinations here that the proposed stations are serving. On the north end at Oak Grove Station, there's potential for a lot of development up there, and that is where Target's North Campus is. What's not shown on this map in that area, on the very north end, we also have identified a maintenance facility that would serve this alignment and the vehicles that would run along the alignment. At 93rd Avenue Station, as we move down, that is a more of a commercial industrial area that is still prime for development, and it's good station to get people to and from work. As we move down to 85th Station, this is a really a key destination. There is North Hennepin Community College in that area. So the station will be right next door to that, so we could serve the students and faculty working in that area, as well as There's a library and some proposed center for the arts in that area, as well as some destinations as far as retail and restaurants and commercial in the area. As we move down to Brooklyn Boulevard Station, this is a very commercial area also. There's a shopping area in that location, and it's adjacent to a transit, a Metro transit station that can communicate or work between the buses and the light rail in that area. So that's area number one. We're going to slide down into area number two here. So this is primarily Crystal and Robbinsdale in this area. And what you see on the map here is the gold hatched area was the previous alignment going down the freight rail corridor. And ghosted in there, there's 3 stations that were identified at 63rd, Bass Lake Road, and then down at 42nd in Robbinsdale, in those areas. And the black line is our recommendation. As we look through this area, there's a lot of geographical barriers between Crystal Lake, Twin Lake, the Crystal Airport in this area, and looking for a through route that would honor the previous alignment. County Road 81 is really the apparent route for consideration here. And as we move from the top of this frame, the top of the picture down, the black is County Road 81, the Botano Boulevard. And in the northern portion of this, the County Road 81 is directly adjacent to the freight rail right away. So we're able to move the alignment over to the east about 90 to 100 feet and still be very close to where we were before. So 63rd Avenue Station, there's an existing park and ride in that location that we want to capitalize on. So we think that we can get a station in here to use that park and ride and remain with the station that was identified in that location. As we move down the map, Bass Lake Road is another station that we had identified in the past and within the freight rail corridor. We think that we can also continue with the station in this general location, and this is great because it connects to Crystal's business district along Bass Lake Road, and really would serve the public well in this location. As we start moving south here, you can see that the 81 starts to diverge away from the freight rail corridor. So as we move down into Robbinsdale, a little bit different flavor here. I mean, we're getting blocks, 2, 3, 4 blocks away from the freight rail alignment in this location. So we're diverging quite a bit. And as we get into Robbinsdale, we'll have to see how this alignment would fit through the community and the city in this location, and evaluate where the best locations for a station would be that would serve Robbinsdale Community Station or stations. On the south end of this map is where the green and the orange lines come in. At the very bottom right-hand corner is where North Memorial Hospital is, and this is an opportunity that we really didn't have before to serve North Memorial Hospital, to have that as a destination. It was a lot of comments in the last 6 years from folks in meetings saying, how try to get this to connect to North Memorial. How do you get to North Memorial from here? Can you get a link or alignment there? So this is that opportunity to meet those desires and to look at how we can serve that area also. So as we move down into Area 3 into North Minneapolis, this is where we do have some more options and our opportunities. And we had to look for a way to get from Target Field Station, that's down in the lower right-hand corner, up to that area of 81 by North Memorial Hospital, looking for continuous routes and routes that had less impact to the community, to residential specifically, that had a right-of-way that was wide enough to accommodate light rail guideway to go down it and still maintain traffic to some level. So typically we need about 75 feet of roadway to fit an LRT guideway in there and still maintain traffic lanes and sidewalks to keep pedestrians going in these areas. So this map shows us This is a right-of-way map, and up in the green are areas where we've got 86 to 100 plus feet of right-of-way in these locations, so more than adequate right-of-way. As we start moving down the spectrum, we get into the yellow, and yellow is still adequate with 75 to 85 feet of right-of-way. It's when we start getting down into the darker orange and dark red where it just really gets very tight to get a light rail right-of-way through that area without major impacts to the community. So we want to stick more to the yellow and green, and that's part of our analysis as we brought forward our recommendation. Next slide, please. This is another example of what went into our consideration. This is from the city of Minneapolis zoning, and looking at some of the density that they have in their zoning, but also the density that's out in the community there. And you can see where the darker colors are indicating more density with either commercial or housing in the area. And those really follow the Lowry corridor and the West Broadway corridor. So this rolls into what our recommended options are for both routes, and then we break it down into links, and we'll talk about those. But on the map here in the green is the West Broadway route that we're coming forward with based on the analysis and our project principles, as well as the Lowry route that's shown in the orange color that follows Washington up to Lowry, and Lowry over to the Bottineau Boulevard connection by North Memorial. And really, those two routes we feel are compatible with light rail and would serve the community very well. And one of our bigger challenges is really how do we get to those two route alignments. So on the bottom here, we're showing some links here, and these are some of a few potential links or options to get to either Lowry or to Broadway, or there could be combinations of these links that work together to serve the community and to get to those two route areas, or get to one of the two route areas. And I think if we go to the next slide, I'll show those links a little bit better. So this perspective view shows us down in the lower right-hand corner, Target Field. So that's where we would connect into the existing blue line out of the Target Field station. And as we come out of there, we have the Navy Link down 7th Street, and this pretty closely follows how our previous alignment came off of Target Field Station. With Southwest being built, they're on a bridge structure that kind of curves around and goes to Royalston. Well, we have to come on either side of that in this scenario, and we come down to grade. And before we came down to grade at that 7th Street, 6th Avenue intersection at grade and through the intersection, and we continue down Olson Memorial Highway to the west. Well, in this location, instead of continuing down Olson, we would turn up 7th Street and follow that Navy link that goes, it crosses 94, and all of these links will need to cross 94 at some point to get to either one of the routes. But the Navy in this scenario, as it crosses 94, would follow along the I-94 right away, and this continues up to West Broadway. Another option here would be, as we get across 94, to connect to the green link that's shown there, and that green link follows Lyndale Avenue between Plymouth Avenue and West Broadway as an option. So this would be one where it's a combination of Navy green link. Some more out-of-the-box options as we go back to Target Field Station are the pink options shown here. And this is a little bit more out of the box. This would be a structure coming off of Target Field Station and probably remain at structure as it weaves through the big campus you see there is the Metro Transit Haywood campus, kind of weaving through that area and then cutting diagonally over to the 3rd, 4th Street ramps. And if we continued with that pink alignment over 94, I envision this as staying on a structure that would come off a Target Field Station and then crossing 94. And in this scenario, we're showing it connecting to the green link. Another option would be to, as we get over to the 3rd, 4th ramp right-of-way area. If we came down to grade, we could connect in with 10th Avenue North, follow 10th Avenue to Washington, and then follow that red link up Washington to either West Broadway Avenue, make that crossing there, or continue up Washington Avenue to Lowry. So these are the link and route alignments that we're recommending as staff, and now we're really looking for input from the community on some of this alignments and discussion on how to move forward.
Thanks, Nick. Real quick, want to just let people know the various ways to get involved, and also how to give us feedback. And then we'll open it up for questions. Want to save a lot of time for that, so we'll try we'll go fast, but not too fast through this. So really, we want to hear from all of you. Did we get this right? Are there things missing? What are those issues and opportunities? Potential station locations. And then we'll also really begin the discussion on our evaluation goals so that we can bring those forward. Gotta click the right thing to go to the next thing. So we'll have a lot of discussion today, and that's all getting captured and recorded and pulled into the project record. But if you have thoughts post this meeting, there's many ways that you can choose to give us additional feedback. So we on bluelineextension.org, we have an interactive map where you can put comments and really zoom in and get them specific to locations. We have a survey that asks about the route options and our initial evaluation goals. You can email me directly to provide comments. I know people have sent some attachments and ideas that we can evaluate further. That's a good way to do it. All of these resources are available on our website. We are recording this meeting, so if you're like, I want to see that again, as well as this presentation is available online. So all things that you can come and grab. And also, as we even heard in the first meeting that we had with the group, we're getting to know many of you today. And if you have any kind of meeting, a block club, a circle on your block, an event at your synagogue, whatever it is, reach out to me and invite us. We'd love to further this conversation with you and get into more area-specific details. Since I mentioned the evaluation criteria, just kind of wanted to leave these here for a second so that you could see them and just get an idea of kind of what we're thinking of as the high level. These will have basically objectives and kind of matrix out so we can really show the benefits and impacts of the things in between. And these came from the previous project, but just also want to note that these two at the bottom were initially the same, and just updating them based on what we were already hearing from communities and really pulling out that desire to advance regional equity and working towards reducing regional disparities. And so I will turn it over to my colleague Sam to kind of close out the presentation, and we already have a lot of questions going in on chat, and so we'll get to them right away.
Great, thank you, Sophia. And just a minute or two, we recognize these projects are transformative. They're big. They take a long time to develop. The many folks, organizations and agencies and neighborhoods and community members are involved to bring these projects to fruition. Our intent, our mission is to bring the best possible project, and that really is working with our community members around the virtual table and ultimately around the real table to get that. But we would be remiss as a project team if we don't recognize a couple of things. One, that the moment we're in, particularly in Minnesota, with so much going on, we are competing for time. We get that. We understand that most folks have to live their daily lives, and so we want to make this as valuable as possible with so much coming at everybody as we are still in a pandemic and getting out of that as well. So we do recognize that this is not the most important element of somebody's daily life, and so that's why it's so important that we reach out to you and that you're reaching back to us and that you stay connected. And we're really to fashion any best way to meet you where you're at and really hear your thoughts. So really, you heard from Nick on some of that conceptual engineering and design. We'll get into a little bit more of that with some of the questions coming up in the chat. Just want to talk a little bit about the two boxes that are also below that. As we look at this in terms of community benefits, we understand that there are also community impacts. And so we have clearly heard, even before the rollout of these potential routes, that we need to be addressing anti-displacement and making sure that we are creating equitable development in the communities we seek to serve. So that is going to be a continued pathway, a continued discussion in concert with our conceptual engineering and design. And I also want to recognize that the previous project did have benefits coming to some of our communities in terms of improving the safety, improving connections, providing some trails, providing some different ways of moving around the communities that don't exist. We understand moving away from that communities are still in need of those very same investments. And we are committed to seeing that through as well. So we are not leaving that on the side of the road. We want to continue that conversation as well. So with the previous project, we want to ensure that those commitments are still in the mix and making sure that we're getting around those in meeting the needs of our community members. So with that, I think we move into discussion, and then Sophia will kind of lead us through that, facilitate the discussion between chat and participants.
Thanks, Sam. So we will take some questions from chat right away, but also feel free to raise your hand. We will kind of alternate between the two as we kind of spend the rest of this time in questions. And so to kick us right off, we have a few questions around basically cut and cover tunnels, whether that's tunnels or anything of that nature. One was about kind of the 7th area and then News Broadway. But I think if we could answer that holistically as well, because I think there might be questions about other parts of the project.
I'll take a first stab at that answering that question. I guess right now we're looking for input. Everything is on the table, so we have not taken anything off the table for comments. As far as considering tunnels, tunnels are difficult to build, impactful, expensive, and to build. But then also the ongoing maintenance of them is challenging too, because it's expensive to maintain. So our initial alignment, we really look to be at grade with it. We feel that serves the community the best. If you're going to go to a train, you can walk right across the street and get on a platform. You're not having to go up or down, and so we feel that it better connects the community, and it's more convenient and easier to get to for people of all abilities with a lot less infrastructure.
Nick, I would add, Speed Rogers puts a piece in here about a tunnel between 7th and West Broadway. Grade-wise, a tunnel tunnel under 94 would seem to be more difficult than a bridge over 94, just simply based on the grades. We'd have to get really low down in the ground to get under 94 and then back up by West Broadway. Have we looked at it? No. We'll look at tunnel and bridge for how to get in and around West Broadway, in and around and over 94. It feels anyway from a grade standpoint, though, that a bridge is a better option, but that doesn't mean it's the only. Yeah.
I'll also note, we don't know exactly why, but some folks aren't able to chat to everyone. So the questions that are chatted to me privately, because people for some reason can't use the whole group feature, I will read them as well. We had this issue last time. We don't really know why. Some can, some can't. Who knows? But we'll get to all of them. So just wanted to say that. Getting to our next question, it is of have we considered this option, which is going along Olson and then north up Lyndale to connect kind of to the Green Link using 7th instead?
So, Christy, that's a really good question. I can say that, yes, we've partly considered staying on Olson and going up Lyndale on the east side of 94 and then crossing either on the Lindale Bridge or on a new bridge up to the Green Link. I will say we haven't yet looked at the possibility of continuing on Olson on the 94 bridge over and then kind of going up. I mean, I know Lindales are kind of one-way pairs there, but going up along that right away on the west side. Haven't looked at that directly. That could be a possibility, either at grade or through some grade separation in terms of doing that. That's a good question. I mean, it does say at some point, if we're going to get from Target Field Station to the northwest alignment here, we're going to have to get on the other side of 94. So whether that is on West Broadway, whether that's up on Lowry, whether that's on Plymouth, whether that's on a new bridge, whether it's on Olson, some way, somehow, we're going to have to build something to get over 94. So that's a good comment, a good question. The answer today, as of yet, no, but that doesn't mean that can't be part of. I'm going to want to think about what that link looks like if we were to try to do that.
Okay, next question. And this one is about kind of our mode. So basically the question is, have we conducted any analysis to see if bus rapid transit would kind of be the solution instead? The person notes that it can be more flexible and have less impact. So maybe talk about our process with that.
Well, I guess, Sophia, let me just start with a couple things, and Sam may want to chime in. The reason that we previously chose LRT for the Blue Line extension, and that this goes back, and that we didn't consider bus rapid transit, is a couple of reasons. Number one, the ridership levels generated in our ridership models were high enough to justify the additional cost of building a LRT system. Because Blue Line and Green Line have been in place, secondarily, it was adding on to that system. And so we were simply adding LRT so that there would be a single Blue Line from Brooklyn Park all the way down into Bloomington. The other part is because of the headways associated with LRT, the number of, meaning how often it would run, the number of buses we would have to run on street, on BRT into downtown Minneapolis would be very, very high. And it would start to really kind of mess up other bus operational issues in downtown. So those were just some of the reasons why we had before and are continuing to advance an LRT project.
Yeah, Dan, I appreciate that. I don't think I have a whole lot to add to that, in the sense of it's also what the communities wanted, right? In terms of this, in terms of the community's desires, and really lining up what can serve. We have a whole toolbox of all sorts of transit services that can do it. And in terms of how the community is growing, how attractions and destinations are lined up, it's really suited very well for light rail transit. So, but that doesn't mean there still isn't a family of transit services that continue to feed and serve the corridor as well.
Next question, and I think it's a very pertinent one because it's something that we hear about, is would you consider basically this process an opportunity for anti-racism education? And the commenter kind of gives this example of, we hear statements such as, I don't want light rail to go here because it's a crime area of the city, or other kind of disparaging remarks from other people in other parts of the community. So if we just want to talk about that question a little bit as well.
Yeah, Sophia, I can take that. And thank you so much, Anne, for calling out sometimes the elephant in the room. We do hear that with these projects. We heard that with Blue Line, with Green Line Extension, and even in some parts of planning for this project in past years as well. I can share with you that our team is very committed to calling that out. That is not the work that we're doing. We are looking to serve all of our communities and really make this a very strong corridor, not only for the cities that are being served, but really for the region as well. We know our cities and our neighborhoods have great assets, and we're looking to connect them. How we address that, as I think it's an opportunity, absolutely, as we move through this, is bringing some of the facts. You know, a lot of folks do talk about this in terms of crime. We have our statistics. We're able to bring that forward. We're able to talk about how these investments actually make some of our communities safer and bring that forward. Part of that is also just elevating the voices of our community members. Folks to get to know their neighborhood community members, then they begin to understand this in a very different way and understand how a project like this can begin to serve that. But I do personally take your comment and your question, and we will, as a team, ensure that we are providing opportunities to really eliminate that type of discussion with this project.
Okay. Switching gears a little bit, and it goes back to the question a little bit like BRT. And this, I think, is a good example of kind of our whole system. We have a question asking about kind of express service from the ends. So those trying to get, you know, from Brooklyn Park to Mall of America or other more destination end-to-end versus in corridor.
Well, the easy answer is no. We are not in that particular piece. We are not going to be able to run an express service on that. I mean, first of all, we're not building 3 tracks, so there's a bypass track on the stations piece. Secondly, it is not the choice, the choice of route. If an express service makes more sense, express service from on an express bus from Brooklyn Park, for example, to downtown Minneapolis goes without with one stop or non-stops along there. So at least right now, anyway, that is not something that we're considering implementing. I know I get that question a lot on the Green Line when I worked on the Green Line. Why can't we just take a train from downtown Minneapolis to downtown St. Paul? Well, because there are stops and stations along the way that are intended to be served. And so there is an express bus that does that. And so that would be the service that takes place here.
Okay, going to some of our roadway and specific engineering, basically questions about Botno Boulevard 81 and asking us about would lanes be reduced? How do we see that looking as we move through our work?
Yeah, we're taking a look at what the impacts would be on the roadway. I can say that likely north of 100, we would look at a reduction in lanes there. You know, it's 6 lanes, 3 lanes in each direction, and we're looking at what capacity is on traffic and still fit within the existing right of way, but that would likely get reduced down to 2 lanes each direction, and we'll look at how intersections operate and what we need to do for lanes and turn lanes there. As we get down into Robbinsdale south of 100, there's 2 lanes in each direction, or it's a 4-lane road, and we feel that we can continue with that in that area and continue the capacity of the roadway through there. And again, on all of these, we have to really, after we figure out what the route is, we'll work on intersections and how we can keep the capacity at the intersections and keep the function of the intersections and keep them operating well.
Thanks, Nick. I will take this next question, and it is, with the extension, could we run 4-car trains? And I'll just say it is, we're already tied into the existing Blue Line, and our platform lengths are designed for 3-car trains. That's the same for Green Line. If we were looking to increase capacity, we would probably, instead of increasing the train length, increase the frequency in which they run. So less waiting time at the platform versus making our individual train longer, I think would be the direction to go. It would take a long time to retrofit the existing Blue Line, and since they are the same, we would have to consider that.
Well, and Sophia, even greater than that, simply 4-car trains will not fit between block to block in downtown Minneapolis. if you know Nicollet Station, right, it extends between the streets. A 3-car train is the max. Otherwise, we're blocking intersections. I mean, that downtown is kind of dictating just how long an LRT can ever be. So while you can see, I don't know, 12-car trains in New York on the subway system, I mean, that's just not gonna be a fact here in the Twin Cities.
So a lot of things to go into that and the potential solution. Our next question is about stations, and this is one that we've gotten in multiple places. Is especially in our southern portion of this alignment, we just have lines, right? We don't actually have stations placed. So noting that it is harder for folks to give feedback, without possible suggestions, but that is very much part of our process. So just wanting to talk with the group a little bit about kind of our station identification process. And let's see if the question had, could we be reaching the North Loop, Washington Avenue between 10th and Plymouth, kind of really high ridership. And so just noting some of those areas. Who wants to take that one?
And that's say a little more about the question, Sam. I mean, I think if we were to go on the some route to connect to the orange route, then we would likely have LRT running on Washington Avenue between 10th and Plymouth, and that.
Yes, I think the root of the question is, to officially select an option. The person's asking. It's difficult to finally make a choice without stations placed. So just wanting to acknowledge our process to place stations and talking a little bit more about that. Like, for example, right now we are asking for desired locations along our new route. It'll be something that'll be included in our draft report. We look for key destinations, and if anybody else wants to elaborate further on that.
And yeah, key destinations, or where we're going to be able to serve the most ridership. So so the density or the key destinations helps out there, and we also want to make sure that you can't put you don't want to put stations too close, or you just keep stopping the train down the track. So in the past we've gone, I don't know, Dan, probably 3/4 of a mile is a good station or good spacing for stations, so we can you serve the community, but we're not like a bus service where the bus is going to stop at every block. We want to make sure that we're also looking at our travel times and making it efficient.
Yeah, I think the routes, I mean, the question posed is a good one, because the routes between, Target Field Station that link orange are different than the routes that will link green on West Broadway. And so one of the benefits of the orange is that if it was determined beneficial, you could have a North Loop station. Whereas if you took the West Broadway route, then you likely would not have a North Loop station. And so I think that'll have to be part of an analysis of the pros and cons of each of the two routes, is the destinations that could be served by station placement on each one.
Okay, next question, and I can take this, is what hours of operation would we be thinking about once this line is built? And the short answer of that is look at our existing Blue Line schedule. As an extension of the Blue Line, we would anticipate running very similarly to what that portion of the line is doing. You couldn't really, it has to kind of match up. And as we get closer to opening day, we'll be able to answer that pretty more specifically. But looking at the current Blue Line schedule is your way to go at the moment. Our next question, and I just jumped through chat, is about infrastructure costs. And the questioner is, noting that the United States often has expensive infrastructure costs, and how can we pull forward best practices to keep costs low and control our budget overall?
Well, of course, the United States is very much different than Europe in terms of how we have to work with our material suppliers, local labor unions, various contracting methodologies. We will work within, the current best practices and laws of the United States that'll allow us to pick a delivery method and a construction methodology that'll allow us to keep costs as low as possible. So as we research how best to place contracts, how best to put interlinks between different contracts. Do we do bridges separately than roadways? Do we do all the track in one package? All that kind of stuff is still, of course, a number of years away from this, but we'll want to be able to deliver it in the best way possible while also being fiscally, minded into how we can actually construct the project.
So we have time for probably just a couple more questions, and one that is coming up again and probably needs some further clarification, is folks are asking about what it really is our stance of, can things be elevated or in tunnels on various portions. I have one both about West Broadway and one about the section of Robbinsdale. And just to kind of we start with the point of trying to have an at-grade running LRT, both in terms of costs and long-term maintenance and even accessibility. For example, if you had an elevator tower that you needed to get to a station that's broken, somebody all of a sudden can't reach their station that day. So we think about that overall. But we're not saying that structure is not off the table. It's something that we have to look at as we get into more details of the engineering in those specific areas. Dan, you're unmuted. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think again, the ability to build structures versus build tunnels are partly about cost, but they're also partly about the challenges associated with them, right? So while a tunnel may seem like a good idea to avoid at-grade roadway impacts, we also have to take into consideration what's under the ground. Where's the water table? What's the condition of the soil? What's the condition of the bedrock? Where are there current utilities that would have to be relocated, and how would that happen? Same thing about overhead structures. Overhead structures may also provide less impact directly to a roadway, but then they also provide a great big change in what the LRT looks like and what the visual impacts are as well. So all of those are parts that have to be taken into consideration. Where should the LRT go? And then what is the best way to integrate the LRT into the existing infrastructure to provide, the least amount of impact? And I mean, partly this goes to, Sophia, can I jump to this question about where are you in the process of finalizing decisions about the route and stations through Robbinsdale, and what obstacles are you facing? And so that's exactly, as Terry poses that question, that's exactly the piece. We believe that the route that would be there closest to the existing route serving the same general area would be to be under, on, over, through Highway 81. And so then we say, well, okay, if it's going to be on Highway 81, where ought the stations to be? So we are working with Robbinsdale, the city, and with the community. Should we have a station downtown? Where should that station be? Should we have a station by North Memorial? And where should that station be? And then obstacles are, do we need 2 lanes, 4 lanes? Do we need 4 lanes? Can we put a turn lane in? What happens to the sidewalks? How do we get pedestrians across? What does it look like? Those are all, I call them challenges rather than obstacles, because there are solutions. Some are better than others. And those are the challenges that we'll be addressing as we continue to work through this year on Robbinsdale and in many other parts of the alignment as well.
Okay, we're getting close to time, and there's a few more questions. We'll probably take a couple more, and then give folks a way to follow up with us as well. there was a question about when's opening day? When are we opening this? And the simple answer is we don't have that date formally forecasted yet. But overall, when you think about getting into construction, getting design ready plans, we're probably in that 5 to 7 year time frame for that. Switching gears completely, a little bit from that is folks are just asking about kind of our overall housing strategy and development strategy, and if we have any contrast that we can provide compared to some of our other lines such as Southwest. Sam, you're on mute.
Sorry, Sophia, can you repeat the question?
Asking us about kind of our overall housing and development strategies, and if we can provide any insight as compared to some of our other lines, whether like Southwest.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. That is something that we do a lot of study on, not only at the council, but a lot of the agencies that are supporting this project, the University of Minnesota, because we want to know what are the benefits, both residential and commercial. So there has been a lot of good research done on the existing blue line, as that was the first line that opened up in 2004. Even more work has been done on the existing green line connecting downtown St. Paul to downtown Minneapolis. We've seen a lot of development there, so we've been able to understand how that development has come together and what keeps it together, quite frankly. Southwest, without kind of laying 1 inch of light rail, we've seen over $1 billion worth of development along the corridor in the 5 communities that it's going to serve. I think we've even seen that obviously with the Blue Line extension. So we are happy to share some of that information. We can share with you some of the links that not only we've pulled together, but also the University of Minnesota through some of their Center for Transit Research. But we know these light rail projects bring development. The question is, and what we will also be working with is what kind of development, and it really should meet the community's needs.
Okay, I will offer to stay on and answer some of these last questions that are kind of popping up in chat. So don't get a full team, but you could get me. But I also want to just note that, you know, we're here to continue this discussion, ask more questions. So visit our website. There's all the maps that you looked at today. Committees, sign up for our e-newsletter so you can continue to get updates and notices of things like that. And with that, just want to note that anybody that needs to bounce off right now, it's the official end of the meeting, and I will just take a couple of the last questions real quick, and let me get back to them. So there's a question about kind of making our tracks more eco-friendly and you know, using more moss and grass. We do incorporate landscaping as part of our overall design. Some of the really pushing the envelope stuff, I think is we'll have to look at as the process goes forward. And that gets into another question that is in chat, which is, you know, if cost gets balloons, if it gets too expensive, would we, you know, look to shorten the route or do anything like that? And that's also way too early for us to we would not want to do that. We would like to preserve the full project, and part of this process is to really maximize the benefit and the elements of the stations themselves, but cost in mind in relation to our ridership. We also have a question about the bridge by North Memorial. That is something that we'll have to figure out how that works with LRT, and kind of we're tying into the county already to do so. And we have a question about kind of snaking through Metro Transit's property and kind of asking, is it feasible from an engineering standpoint? The questioner asked, the pink or red holds a lot of promise, not getting stuck in traffic and whatnot, but it will just acknowledge that it will be a little bit of a challenge following those things. Our engineers are going to have to sharpen their pencils on that one. But we do believe it is feasible. That's kind of why it was proposed, and it'll just be a little bit tricky getting the actual engineering details through. I think we've captured almost everything. Sam, Nick, do you see any that I missed?
No, I think we covered them. If we didn't get to your question, we will definitely be checking back in the chat and making sure we do address them and get that out as well. But we just want to recognize your time and just want to say thank you for everybody joining. Please, please, please stay connected with us. We have a lot of good decisions, a lot of good ideas, a lot of creativity still that we need your help on, and we want you to stay connected with us. We would also just make the play. We do this at 6 o'clock tonight. So feel free to join us at 6 if you're glutton for punishment and just want to go through the presentation again. And that's from 6 to 7:30 as well. And like Sophia said, today's presentation will be posted on our website for you to also review as well.
So thank you, everybody. This formally concludes everything. We appreciate your time today, and take care.